I had yet another bright idea, guys. Because I feel like every time I draw comic stuff, it's mildly entertaining. Why don't I do it again? So, I'm turning a snippet from a book into a comic page because I don't have any practice comics to redraw. The only problem is, I haven't picked up a novel since sophomore year in high school. Luckily, I have Joey to pick things out for me, so he picked a random snippet of a book and sent it over to me. So, here we are, guys. The snippet he chose is from a book called Neon Gods by Katie Robert. According to him, it's a modern retelling of the Hades and Persephone myth. That's not all there is to it, and since I haven't read the book myself, I don't think I can talk much about the actual plot. We all know how the myth generally goes, but with each person's retelling of the story, I think there are differences in smaller details as well as story progression. Joey gave me a snippet from page 36 of the book, and I'll read it out loud for you all. She blinks big hazel eyes up at me, little shivers racking her body. She called you Hades. It's my name. I pause. Persephone. Hermes laughs and sets the wine bottles on the counter with a clink. She points at herself. Hermes. She points at him. Dionysus. Another laugh. Though you already know that. She leans against my shoulder and whisper yells. She's going to marry Zeus. I didn't include the last part of the dialogue in this comic because initially I was going to do 2 pages of this, so that'd be on the second page. I would have also done a bit more, but I didn't have a lot of time. So I stuck with doing only 1 page. It ends awkwardly and I'm sorry for that. Anyways, I had a moment where I got confused about who's speaking for whatever reason. It was stupid. When I saw that Hermes was referred to as she, it threw me off since in the original Greek mythology, Hermes is a man. In Neon Gods, Hermes is a woman, so I thought that was super interesting. I shouldn't have spent so long overthinking, but oh well. I didn't have a lot of context this scene, obviously, which made it a big challenge. I didn't know what they were doing earlier, so trying to figure out the panels and what goes in them was hard for me. I ended up trying to find the book myself online and trying to read a little bit of what was happening before the snippet. I'm not going to read the entire book, mainly because I wouldn't have time to. I think if I wanted to read a novel, I may have to dedicate at least an hour or 2 to read, which sadly, I don't have that luxury. It's alright though, I kind of just make do with what I have. I will say that drawing a comic page for this book was a significant challenge because the characters' appearances are way out of my comfort zone. Now, obviously, I can draw women just fine and find them a lot easier in this situation. For the men, that's where I feel like things went downhill. I'm so used to drawing soft, pretty boys, even my characters who are meant to be rough around the edges, I'm talking about you, Yongsang, kind of have pretty faces. I definitely do not draw any facial hair. I saw that Hades and Dionysus both had facial hair of some kind, so I had to do it. It definitely could have looked better, and maybe this is something I should consider studying how to do, but yeah. Figuring out a design for Hermes was tough because I didn't know what people imagined of her. All I knew was that she had dark skin since in an earlier paragraph, it mentioned how she was wearing a sparkly dress that reflected against her dark skin or something like that. So it was very important for me to get that right at least. No mention of what her appearance was, but I'm sure it was probably somewhere earlier in the book. I wasn't going to look for it though. I feel like I'm going to get a bit of flack for the design choices I made. I guess the point of this is that it's random and I know nothing. It does give me a lot of artistic freedom to figure things out though, but I think at the very least, if there's a specific race or skin color that a character has, I want to at least respect that. One of the most annoying things about doing this was figuring out how I was going to do the backgrounds. I hate doing backgrounds in anything, but since this is a comic, I had to. Let's just say I was winging it. I don't think what I had in mind for the background looked very good, so hopefully the characters distract enough from it. We'll have to see though. Since I only drew 1 page, it did mean that I didn't have to suffer on backgrounds multiple times, which is good. It also meant that I could at least get something done. Usually my comic pages are 6 panels, but this one only has 5 panels because of the way I decided to do them. I still need to work on panel arrangement to make things interesting, but I think I'll eventually get there so long as I make more practice comics. I want to make more practice comics, but they take forever. I actually have no idea how webtoon artists can keep making long, consistent updates. I can barely keep up with one page. I guess part of it is me refusing to simplify my art style, so that's my fault. This was one of those moments where line art wasn't so bad. I think it's because things are generally simple. No complicated poses or little details, which is nice. Though, to be fair, I don't think I'd have any idea on what small details to add anyways. I guess if I was familiar with the book, then maybe I'd know. Don't know if I can ever get familiar with random books though, considering I'm always short on time. It might be helpful for this type of thing, but oh well. But back to the comic. Since things were simpler, line art didn't take nearly as long. It wasn't like the Asian AU comic where I was absolutely dying because Jihoon's instrument of choice was a dang keyboard. The hardest thing was the wine bottle, and even that was a walk in the park. I guess since everything was simpler, maybe the issue is that the panels are a little boring to look at, which of course ties into me needing to work on my composition within these panels so you guys don't get bored looking at them. I guess since it's kind of a conversation here, do I really have room to make things interesting? Maybe, if I had more pages. I could have those other pages make up for the lack of interest in certain pages, but again, I didn't do that. I know not to make more than 4 pages for a practice comic after seeing how long that Asian video took me. It took a lot of time and my soul, guys. This one only took my soul, but just a tiny bit. Okay, so we're just about to get into working on the background. Since I hate doing backgrounds, you guys know that it was a miserable time for me. I had to push through though, even though I was going to hate where everything was going. I think that's a trend you're going to see with my art. I just hate the backgrounds and pretty much everything else. It probably doesn't look as bad as I think to some people, but to me at least, I always think I can do better. It's that perfectionist in me. Plus, if I'm making a comic, I can't slack off on the backgrounds. If this was an actual comic project, I think I'd put a lot more care into the background to make sure that things are consistent. I noticed that whenever I do backgrounds for things like this, it's very obvious I don't know what I'm doing. Like, there are so many inconsistencies and whatnot, which isn't good. I guess people won't notice or hyperfixate on them, but I just like things looking right always, even if they're so insignificant. It's kind of a problem when it's a bit too much. Perfection is okay, but maybe in moderation. I should probably work on that and dial it back. I did think about shading the background right after I finished the flat colors like I always do, but I decided to do the colors for the characters. I don't know why I did that. Maybe it was because I thought that things were looking weird with the uncolored characters. Coloring the characters is always decently fun. It's kind of satisfying seeing things come together. Out of all of the characters in this comic, I liked how Hermes turned out the best. It probably isn't accurate to the actual book, but I gave Hermes this platinum blonde hair that looks so nice with her skin. I just love that kind of high contrast look on designs. I feel like I always draw light-skinned characters with dark hair, which, yeah, it does have nice contrast, but it's something I always do, so it's not as fun. Dark-skinned characters with light or very bright hair is super fun, and I should consider drawing more characters like that. You know, diversify my portfolio a bit because I always draw the same things. So, in a way, I think doing this kind of challenge every now and then is good for me. Otherwise, all of my practice comics will be about my characters who all have very similar vibes, and that's probably super boring to people. Okay, well maybe my characters aren't all the same, but you guys get the point. You can see that I'm shading the characters now since I was yapping so much. Shading for this comic was easy, but only because I didn't throw in any metal. Every time I have to throw in metal because someone decided to wear jewelry, I feel a part of me die a bit. It's not that shading metal is hard, it just takes a tiny bit longer and I like getting the clothes done and over with. I've said it so many times, but I do in fact hate shading clothes, and I'll make sure my viewers will never forget that. There are so many things I hate when it comes to drawing. it's bad. But if it's not an easy bust shot for an conventionally attractive person, I hate it. Okay, I'm joking, of course. Don't take it too seriously. I think it kind of just shows that I'm pretty restricted in my art and I should change that eventually. I think some people would consider me at an advanced level or something, probably because of my lighting and rendering effects. I'm not. I don't think I am. I'd honestly say a bit above intermediate at best, but maybe I'm just being so harsh on myself. We know how I am. Anyways, we're pretty much at the end of the speed paint. I did some final rendering effects and then boom, I was done. So let me show you how the page looks. Here's how the final page looks. For someone who has no idea what she's doing, I think it turned out alright. I'll only get better with time, so maybe I should do more practice comics when I can. Anyways, thank you for watching until the end of the video. If you like my content, I'd appreciate a like and subscribe. Hopefully, I'll see everyone in the next video.